Good afternoon and welcome to the January 24th, 2024 meeting of the Minneapolis Board of Estimate and Taxation. My name is Steve Brandt and I am the president of the board. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll to verify the presence of a quorum.
Commissioner Fry.
Here.
Commissioner Bene.
Here.
Commissioner Payne.
Here.
Commissioner Chugtai.
Present.
Vice President Priest-Stinson is absent. President Brandt.
Here.
There are 5 members present.
Let the record reflect that we have a quorum. I now want to offer an acknowledgement that we are meeting today on Dakota land. And I also want to remind members of a change we made at the last meeting of the board, our organizational meeting. We changed the bylaws to refer to ourselves as commissioners for purposes of these meetings. So members of the audience, who are making presentations, you don't have to fumble about and figure out if you're addressing the president, the vice president, the mayor, council member. You can simply say commissioner in your response if you'd like. We'll now proceed to our agenda, a copy of which was posted for public access on the city's legislative information management system, which is available at lims.minneapolismn.gov. That's lims.minneapolismn.gov. Okay, board members, the agenda for today's meeting is before us. May I please have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a properly made and seconded motion before us. Any discussion? That, seeing none, all those who are in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we have an agenda adopted. The next order of business is the acceptance of the minutes from the December 6th meeting and the January 10th, 2024 meeting. May I please have a motion to accept both sets of minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a proper motion before us. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, the minutes are adopted. Item 4 on our agenda is the acceptance of public comment. We welcome members of the public to make public comments related to current board business. For our bylaws, the public comment period is limited to a total of 10 minutes. The clerk informs me that we have no one signed up. Is there anybody in the audience today, regardless? Okay. If we had, we would allow each of you 2 minutes to make your comment. Item 5 on our agenda today is unfinished business. It's receiving a presentation of the financial status quarterly report from the city controller, Lyle Hodges. Welcome, Mr. Hodges, and thank you for serving as sort of the Flying Dutchman of the Board of Estimate and Taxation agenda. I think this is the 3rd time it's appeared, and I'm hoping the 3rd time's a charm.
Thank you, President Brandt. Commissioner Board, as introduced, my name is Lyle Hodges. I'm the Controller in Finance and Property Services, here to present to you a summary report of select city funds as of 3rd quarter 2023. So starting off with an overview, the financial recovery from the pandemic is ongoing. This past fall, in August of 2023, Fitch upgraded the city's credit rating from AA+ to AAA, and Standard & Poor's also confirmed our AAA rating. In addition to that, we don't get a formal rating from Moody's Investment Services, but Moody's did also upgrade our outlook from positive, or to positive, from stable. In addition, parking revenues are rebounding and are projected to finish slightly above the 2023 budgeted amount. Local taxes, likewise, are projected to exceed the budget for 2022, and that would be, or exceed the budget, which would be the 3rd consecutive year. And then finally, ARPA spending continues to support our planned activities in response to the public health and economic impacts of the pandemic. Continuing on with the overview, total book value of the city's cash and investments as of September 30th is just over $1 billion. That's a slight decrease from where we were through September 30th of 2022. We are projected to meet our fund balance and net position and cash reserve minimums in all but the funds that I've got listed below, and for the reasons listed there. So property services sees their cash balance projected to fall below the target because we're catching up on delayed capital projects. Self-insurance continues to see a negative net position while having a positive cash balance, and that's due to long-term actuarially determined liabilities. The parking fund, while I mentioned it's recovering, will still fall below its target. And then sanitary sewer is also catching up on and spending capital outlay, which is pulling down their cash balance. Moving on to the general fund. The general fund is where we account for all financial resources except those required to be accounted elsewhere. We are currently projecting the 2023 ending fund balance to be $181.5 million, which would be an increase of $7.8 million over where we ended 2022. That exceeds our 17% minimum fund balance requirement, which would be equal to $110 million based on our policy. And then our cash balance in the general fund through September 30th is $155 million. Looking at our revenues by category, the chart at the top of this slide represents the budget in solid blue, and then the projected number in the green checked columns. You can see there several of the categories of revenues are expected to exceed budget. The biggest line right there, or the biggest line exceeding budget, is state aids, and that is the public safety one-time funding that we received at the end of the year. Collectively, we were projecting that revenue would exceed budget by $28.4 million. Historically, the general fund revenue has finished above budget, and that trend continues in 2023. We were projecting to collect approximately 105% of the budgeted amount, which is slightly more than historical. Usually we're just over budget at 100.2%. On the expenditure side, we've got a similar graph and chart representing the budget and projected numbers by major department. This is, of course, organized by the new governmental structure and represents the groupings that we would expect as we operate under the new structure. Again, several departments are projected to be under budget, and collectively we expect departments to come in almost $17 million under budget. And then again, general fund expenditures over time. Historically, again, we see that the general fund underspends its budget. Typically, we see underspending of about 4.5%, and this year we're looking at spending about 97% of the budget. Moving on to special revenue funds. As a group of funds, these funds are where we account for proceeds of specific revenue sources, and those proceeds are restricted in use for specific purposes. The significant special revenue funds are listed there in the second bullet point. And then again, collectively, if we look at the fund balance projected at the end of 2023, we were seeing an $8.7 million increase compared to where we ended 2022. Cash in this group of funds is projected to actually decrease by $86.7 million, and that's predominantly or entirely actually due to the spend down of ARPA funds. So ARPA, we received all that cash up front, and we will spend it down over the next couple of years until we get to the end of 2024. This next slide shows the special revenue funds individually, showing the cash balance and the fund balance for 2022 and then 2023 projected. So there you can see kind of how each fund is moving. And again, the grants fund about 2/3 of the way down there. You can see the cash decreasing dramatically, again, spending down our ARPA proceeds. Internal service funds is the next group of funds we'll take a look at. Again, these are used to account for goods and services provided internally to other city funds. And the list of internal service funds is listed in the second bullet point. Total net position for this group of funds is projected to end 2023 at 80 million, which would be a slight decrease from where we were in 2022. Total cash is also projected to be slightly less than where we ended 2022. And this reflects our spending plans consistent with the budgeted amounts while investing in city projects and infrastructure. And again, the next slide shows us a detailed listing of each fund and the activity and the cash and net position and the positives and negatives by fund. And then finally, we'll take a look at the enterprise funds. So this group of funds is used to account for all of our business type operations where we sell goods and services to outside parties. And again, the funds are listed in the second bullet point. Overall net position in this group of funds is expected to increase just slightly from 2022, and cash is expected to decrease just slightly from 2022. Mentioning again that cash in most funds will be stable with a slight increase in stormwater and water due to operating revenues coming in higher than expected and higher than operating costs. And then this slide shows us again the enterprise funds individually with the positive and negative impacts on cash and net position that's projected from their operations by the end of 2023. And then finally, I put a slide here at the end just to kind of demonstrate that parking revenue recovery that I mentioned all the way back on the first slide. So this kind of shows us a trend line of parking revenue through the third quarter of any given year. And then over the top of that is parking revenue through the end of most years with a projection for 2023. And then the green trend line is the budget. So you can see where the impacts happened in 2020 and 2021 and where we are recovering or projected to recover through the end of 2023. And with that, I will stand for questions.
Thank you for that presentation. Colleagues, are there any questions for Mr. Hodges?
Thank you, Mr. President. I was curious, just as a broad question, when we're looking at where revenue is and we're coming in slightly above budget, and it seems like that's a historically true thing, is it typical that there's a pretty consistent trend around that budget of like all the funds are coming in slightly above, or are there big differences of one fund might have a big windfall and the other one might have a big deficit, but they net out to kind of work out?
I'm sure President Brandt, Commissioner Payne. It depends is the answer, of course. So in any given year, we try to balance an approach to revenue projecting or budgeting that, we try to consider all the factors that could be at play. This year in the general fund, for example, when the budget was set, we didn't know the state was going to pass a one-time public safety funding, so that spiked revenue in the general fund. And that can be true in any year in any fund. So the trend is kind of inconsistent, I think would be the best answer.
Okay, thank you. And then I have a separate question on the parking revenue. That's an enterprise fund and has some requirements around it, right? In terms of it can't run at a deficit. Am I understanding that correctly?
Commissioner Payne, when you say requirement, do you mean like legally or?
That would actually be the exact question, yes.
I actually don't know. I know the accounting answer for any enterprise fund is that we don't want them to run at a deficit, but I don't know legally if that's a question someone would know.
That's helpful.
Other questions?
I think that's all I got.
I have a question about I asked you offline about the projected fund balance at the end of 2024, assuming that the 2024 budget comes in right on target, which we of course know it won't. Does that 185 million at the end of 2024 assume historical levels of underspending? Is that already in that figure, or do those augment that figure if they happen?
President Brandt, so when we talk about 2024, and the question, excuse me, was whether or not, if everything worked out to budget, that $185 million figure would only reflect budgetary numbers. So any over collection of revenue or underspending would have, an impact up or down on that estimate.
Okay, thank you. I think that I saw in the presentation the suggestion deep in the, in the financial status report that the property tax collection was slightly down as a percentage of, what is levied. What's going on there? Does that reflect appeals or something else?
President Brandt, while I'm aware that the trend is down just a percentage or two from prior years, I don't actually know what's causing that right now.
Okay, thank you. I had a question about the 17% budget reserve policy. I guess the question is 17%. I know it's 17% of general fund expenditures, but is that at any time during the year the fund balance is not allowed, under the policy, to fall below that 17%, or on average during the year, or the beginning of the year, or the end of the year, because of the cyclical cash flow that we have?
So President Brandt, that's a good question, and it requires kind of a separation of fund balance from cash. So when we talk about fund balance in the general fund, we mean the cumulative amount of all assets less all of our liabilities. And that's actually a measurement that we officially only publish once a year. So fund balance is something that we look at as of December 31st of any year. The cash balance, of course, you can see as we spend throughout the year, varies every month, every day, really. So that number can fluctuate really quite dramatically throughout the course of the year. But the fund balance is really measured once a year as a snapshot as of 12/31.
So if we're in the month before the property tax collection arrives and we're at 10%, that's no big deal because we know we'll be, and it's not measured off of that dynamic as well. Correct. Okay. Also wanted to ask you about fund transfers. I think you mentioned to me in an answer that the general fund is going to get a transfer from the Downtown Assets Fund sometime during the year of 31 million, which is good to hear because it's, I think, back where we were in 2019 before everything hit the fan. But in looking through at least the summary revenues of the 2024 budget, I couldn't find that coming in as a $31 million figure. Does that simply mean that it's part of the larger figure of $34 million for transfers in to the general fund? Or I realize I'm asking you to sort of teach accounting for dummies here, but
So President Brandt, yes, the amount transferred into the general fund on that single line would represent all transfers in for the year. And so in the published budget book online, there's a schedule in the back. I think it's Schedule 6. And that shows each transfer by fund. So if you add up all of the lines in that schedule that say transfer to general fund, you should get the total amount, and then you can kind of see where they're coming from.
Great, thank you. Does anyone else have questions? Okay, I will thank you, Mr. Hodges, for the presentation, and we'll ask the clerk to receive and file the third quarter financial status report. Item number 6 on our agenda is the 2023 bond proceeds reallocation resolution, and I'll invite the city's Director of Banking Investments and Debt, Mr. Hoppy, as well as his colleague, David Wheeler, to make that presentation.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, plural there. I'm Alan Hoppy, Director of Banking, Investments, and Debt. I've been with this, for the new members, new commissioners here, I've been with the city for about 2.5 years, with multiple decades of experience in government finance. Today, actually, I'll touch on just a couple things. Managing expectations for the future. Of course, the Board of Estimate Taxation deals with approving the maximum tax levy once a year and also approving bond issues. And so later this year, we'll come to you with authorization request to sell some bonds. In the meantime, we have some movement of bond proceeds that happens during the year where money is moving from one fund to another fund. Dave Wheeler will address that here in a little bit more detail. But that's kind of the big picture, when you'll see us a couple times a year, basically. And of course, if you have bonding questions at any point, I report to the CFO, Deshani Dye, and you can just get in contact with her and we'll work on your questions. Dave?
Good afternoon, President Brandt and Commissioners of the Board. I'm Dave Wheeler, the Manager of Banking Investments and Debt. I do report to Director Hoppy. We brought with today the reallocation resolution for bond proceeds as recommended by Public Works. I put the schedule up on the screen, and in your packets, there is some detail there. To clarify, this is a reallocation of bonds that have already been sold, so the funds are there, and then requires concurrent action to the City Council's resolution that was passed in December. Public Works is recommending that the projects listed at the top, there is 4 that have closed with excess bond proceed balances, aggregate amount of $3.3 million. They would like to reallocate these funds to address shortfalls in the projects listed at the bottom of the schedule. This is our only agenda item for the day, so I will stand for any questions I could answer if you have any, but we may defer to Public Works and respond later.
Are there any questions for either Mr. Wheeler or Mr. Hoppy? Commissioner Benny.
Thank you, President Brandt. Actually, you might not be able to answer this, but I'm wondering, some of these projects are old, and so they've been sitting with shortfalls this whole time, or was there something about the projects that not completed until recently? I mean, I'm surprised a contract could stay open with not enough funds for 3 years if those funds were paid out, because I'm sure a lot of this is I'm sure every bit of it's under either a contractor or work tickets the city has. So do you have an answer for that? Or?
The details, Commissioners, the detail on that, we'd have to bring Public Works up here to talk about that. We don't have the details as far as was the last dollar that put a negative spent last week,
Right.
Or 2 years ago. The projects, if you recall in some earlier conversations, it's not uncommon for projects to go 4 years before we even bond for them, so they do really get some happen really quickly and promptly, but others do get stretched out. And as far as, of course, a city of our size with all the things going on, we do have funds that do go negative, and we do pool our cash, so there's never a cash flow concern with that. But your points about specifics within the project, it does, as you can see, happen.
The pooling of the cash, that's probably the answer. So, okay, thank you.
Are there any additional questions? Commissioner Payne.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I'm wondering is there a typical timeline that, just for me to wrap my head around how these bonding dollars are sought after and deployed, or is it change pretty dramatically depending on the construction specifics?
Commissioners, we will come to you about once per year to seek the primary bonding for the city. That's going to be in the neighborhood of 100 to 125 million. I'm not sure if that answers the entire
The question is, within the capital planning, just kind of that time cycle from when it's identified as a need to when it gets bonded to when the construction happens. Is that is like a pretty standard roadmap, or is it quite, project specific?
Commissioners, that it is project specific. I touched on just a second ago that some projects can go 3-4 years before they even get it to the bonding, and then it can take a couple of years for them to complete the spending. So while you'll see us come in here once a year, we're going to come in with projects that have been around for a while, some that just were approved back in December. So there is a variety.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? All right, do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All right, we have a proper motion before us. Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Fry.
Aye.
Commissioner Benny.
Aye.
Commissioner Payne.
Aye.
Commissioner Chugtai.
Aye.
President Brandt.
Aye.
There are 5 ayes.
Okay, the resolution is approved. We move on now to item 7, and I am going to suggest that we brief our newer members sort of on where this comes from, and then continue this to the next meeting of the board, I think on the 14th of February, because the person who is best versed in this on the board is actually Vice President Pre Stinson, who handled much of the contract work on this during 2023. To go way back, the board used to have a full-time employee, and then in 2019 it went to a part-time employee, and we had trouble keeping a part-time employee in a job that demanded a highly qualified finance professional, but for half-time pay and no benefits. And so the mayor, I think, suggested that we look at going out to hire a consultant to help us with some of the projects for analysis that board members might be interested in. We reached a contract with Abdo Financial for a not-to-exceed amount of $175,000, and that was a 1-year contract with 4 renewal options. 1 year into the contract, we have spent $134,000. The bulk of that went for a capital audit, which was an attempt to take city capital spending in a variety of areas. Public works and parks are 2 good examples, and find out what the allocation was across the city. For example, it told us, based on the data that came back to us in a preliminary presentation, that Ward 8, my ward, was at the bottom and others were at the top, and so on, for a 5-year period that was discussed. However, I think that there were some issues that weren't completely resolved, including park capital spending and a desire to allocate the neighborhood park funding more accurately. And so it sort of sat for a few months, and the contract expires at the end of the year unless there's a renewal. And right now, the contract is in expired status, but we can extend it if we so choose. Commissioner Priest Stinson had suggested 4 options. One is to extend the contract. Another is to extend it with a fee schedule change. Another is to end the contract and go out for a new RFP. And another one would be to end the contract and hire a new staffer. And so at this point, that's the lay of the land. And my suggestion, unless people have strong feelings or want to discuss it right now, is that we wait until the meeting of the 14th. And I hope that Commissioner Priest Stinson's health will allow her to attend that meeting. I know she has a surgery sometime next month. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree with the plan to delay until Commissioner Priest Stinson is back. She is probably the most familiar, especially with some of the actions that have been taken over the last year and a half. I agree with her in the vast majority, if not all, of her sentiment. Of those 4 options, I do think it makes sense to continue with a consultant, even if there is a change in the consultant. And additionally, just to kind of provide a little bit of foreshadowing for what I think is the right call, and I don't want to put words in Commissioner Priest Stinson's mouth, but I believe at least there's some agreement on this as well. I think we should have this work move forward on a project basis, and that project basis should be approved by the board. And if you look at the services to be provided, I think that is a pretty all-inclusive list of the services that a contractor would potentially do. However, the first 4 bullet points, mostly applying to providing independent analysis, I think is the main bulk of the work that this contractor would do, whereas the remaining ones are largely done by finance and or clerk in some form. So granted, there might be a little bit of review or putting the things that the finance team and the clerk's team has already done into a document, but for the most part, our internal teams are completing the work on those last pieces. And so, that's where I ultimately would like this to go. If it were my decision alone, of course it's not. But I think we have a good route here to not sort of throw out the baby with the bathwater, but adjust to make sure that we're on the right track.
Any other discussion? All right. I just want to, I haven't settled on one of the options that Commissioner Priest Stinson had suggested, but I agree with the mayor that we should move forward on a more project basis and narrow the list of tasks that the consultant performs for us, and maybe get the expertise of finance behind us, because I certainly have not managed a contract like this, and so I would rely on that help if we went ahead with a consultant. Do we need a motion, clerk, to continue this? Okay, could I have a motion to continue this to the meeting of February 14th?
Second.
Okay, we have a proper motion before us. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And that completes all of the business to come before us. So without objection, we stand adjourned.